Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. We will see if I get this video up in time for Poetry Thursday. Yesterday I posted a hour-long reading of my own poetry, interspersed with digressive discourse. I'm going to read a section from a poem by Liam Guilar. Now, Liam Guilar is, I believe he currently lives in Australia, but is of UK origins. And I thought that I had devoted a whole video to his book, A Presentment of Englishry, which I was reading at about the time when I started this YouTube channel. Mention is made of him in the very first Recent Reads video that I did, and I will put a link to that in the description box. That was before I started calling it Recent Reads. And I thought somewhere along the line I had read a little bit from this aloud, but I seem to be unable to find that. To clarify the title here, Are You English is never a neutral question. In the 11th century, a presentment of Englishry was the offering of proof that a dead man was English and therefore unimportant. In the 12th century, Layman, a priest living in the small settlement of Arley Regis by the River Severn, set out to tell the noble deeds of the English, who they were and where they came from. No one knows why he chose to write his 16,000 plus lines in English. I believe the poem is known as The Brute, B-R-U-T. And I've never read it. Liam Guilar is a medievalist or a medieval scholar. And so he, in this book, he draws on that medieval literature. And I don't recall which section I thought that I had read, but I'm not going to read from this book. Part 2 is out. I believe there are three parts. This is called A Man of Heart. It just arrived today. And the odd thing here is that it's part 2 of A Presentment of Englishry. So I presume that this is part 1, but if you look at the title page, it just says A Presentment of Englishry. So I wonder if it's kind of like what happened with Star Wars. First, George Lucas made Star Wars, and then he decided there were going to be 3 more parts, and the whole thing should be called Star Wars. And so I think the original movie that was called Star Wars had to be renamed A New Hope or something like that to go with, what is it? It's been years since I saw those. Something the Empire, and then something the Jedi, the 3 movies in that initial trilogy. So I don't know if something similar to that is happening here. Regardless, book 2 or part 2 is much bigger than the first part. And I am not planning to read this all in one sitting. I logged this book in my little notebook where I record everything that I read. And I think I read it in the span of a day or 2, something like that. This, I have no intention of doing that too. I'm just going to dip into it now and again, which is my customary want with poetry. But that has not stopped me from flipping through. And I will read you a little bit from chapter 11, Things Fall Apart, part 1. I've looked at this a little bit, and when I read this book, I thought that it was very redolent of T.S. Eliot. I just felt like there were echoes of Eliot all over the place. In this case, I do not feel that at all. If anything, I might suggest Bunting, but I am not as thoroughly familiar with that poet, and I think possibly it rather is that I am becoming more attuned to Guilar's own voice. So let me read this little section, chapter 11, Things Fall Apart, 1, and I won't read the subsequent bits. In the midnight forest, in the moon-stained tower, the princess stares towards the morning, while her sleeping lord dreams of a desperate hunt, racing, branch-whipped through the trees. His dogs, white coats shining, red ears shining, howling after a milk-white stag. The stag is walking, unconcerned, and his sweating horse cannot close the distance. Could you feel the moonlight on your skin? She wanders the circuit of the room, orbiting the bed, watching the sleeper twitch, hearing him mutter orders to the slavering pack who pay him no attention. Inside the winter forest of his dream, the bored stag stops beside the river and turns to face the dogs who cower from his indifference. He's standing on the river wall with London burning at his back. The mighty silver river turned to silt. The child with golden eyes emerging from the smoke and shadows holds the coin he's worn around his neck since he found it in the mud. I know what lies beyond the ninth wave, says the child. I know the age of the wind. I know why Gwydion sang an eagle from an oak, why Math wouldn't sell his mouse. On and on as the child grew older, the mountains rising like an insult to cut the road that fades into the fields, the road to Lincoln, overgrown, baffled by vertical gray stone veined by snow, barriers of rock and ice blocking the horizon. He is laughing at the boy who hasn't stopped. Do you know why the gods allow humans to suffer? Why wise men fail and fools succeed? Why good men die and bad ones prosper? No, said the boy, flicking the coin so it drifted like an ember in the smoke. I do, he says, as they watch it settle in the silt and the dirty waters swirl and cover it. He wakes, feeling for the coin, reassured, but it's a dream within a dream. You did come back? Oh, foolish man, she says, when will you ever learn? He turns to the golden boy. Because there are no gods, only fortune and her wheel, and she's a brutal mistress, destroying all she favors. I wonder if I should find another part. As I say, this is, this was interesting, and it may be a bit of a disservice just to pull this out. This is from the previous section, which is titled The Scribe's Story, and this is number 12, the job, not the title. He dreads their silence. It disrupts logic, qualifies sense, suggests the worst while saying nothing. For your skill with words, you will join the papal mission. You will travel to Britain. You will record everything, said his superior. He had accepted, thinking the place was his by right of skill and knowledge. Only now he understands it was curse, not compliment. They picked the one that no one liked, the one they could afford to lose. And this several of these lines have resonances in previous parts of the poem. So ergo, I say possibly a disservice reading it to you. I got this directly from Amazon UK. To get it here, it cost more. And I believe a third part is due out soon. In my discussion of this book, I remember saying that prior to reading Edward Gibbon, I would not have been able to penetrate a book like this. I had no exposure to the Middle Ages or to the medieval world, and I felt much more at home reading this, having read Gibbon. I pulled out a few books of English history. Which somehow I am missing a volume, just things I've picked up along the route, but I've never had any especial interest in studying English history. George Holmes is one of my favorite writers, and I've never cracked this book. He's mostly written about the Renaissance, and I've read pretty much everything that he has done there. I don't know if it's something, now that I've been reading Stephen Runciman, maybe something I will be inclined to look at. And then if I do, I don't know if this would be the right place to start, possibly having aged. But I suspect the writing is pretty good. So I will leave this video here. A couple of nice books by Liam Guilar. And let's see, so yeah, this one is almost 200 pages, and there are notes. This one, the first book, is slightly more than 100 pages, and of course there are notes. So I will let the world or the worlds of Liam Guilar rest. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.